Disclaimer. I doesn't claim any of the arts. All the picture shown belongs to the respective artist and company. If you are original owner and want me to remove the video, I will do it immediately. Just send me an email to inform me. At daytime we see auction house, in underground of it we see security guards. They guarding a big door, and head of that group is bearded bald man. We see group of masked people are approaching them, and in front there's old man, and it seems that he is a Indian monk. Security guards wonder who the hell are they? Where on earth did crawl out of? Head of that security guard says, "Whatever, we don't need to know all that. Past this place there's only the warp gate control office. The fact that they're here means they're the target we're meant to take care of. All of you, assist. As the A ranker, I'll take them out myself." Then he rolled up his sleeves and wants to draw his weapons from his back to get ready for a fight with infiltrators. But an instant old man summons a giant insect like monster, and monster destroys all of security guards and wants to eat the leader of the guard's head. The old was a S-rank villain of unknown affiliation, and his name is Narendra Nehru. One of masked infiltrators says to old man, "Mr. Narendra Nehru, a variable has come up at the auction house. Apparently Kim Tae-yun, the S-ranker of New South Korea Association, is at the auction house. What we should do?" Nehru had his palms together as if praying. Nehru says to his man, "What about lowly trash like that? As long as I, Narendra Nehru, am here, no one can evade the divine revelation." Then we see the auction house, that in instant, in top floor of it, an explosion happens, and the people in the building that were busy with auction didn't know what will happen. An instant explosion happens. All of the people that was in auction, they are caught in an explosion. And one explosion turns into multiple of it at multiple places of the two buildings. Park security guard of Kim calls him and asks him is he okay because they need to evacuate immediately. Kim thinks with himself that there's no way. I knew a terror attack would happen, but you're telling me they're bombing all throughout the structure? How did the terrorist even sneak in? Since when were the bombs installed? Then Kim realizes that right now what's as important is other thing. Then Kim looks at his left and sees that people are running from terrorists. One of them, while he was shotting a gun, says, "Lower your weapons and hand over any money or valuables right now. If you try to resist, I'll shoot a hole in your head." Then we see Kim didn't waste any time. Kim, with full speed with his dagger in hand, decapitates that terrorist head. Park Kim's bodyguard doesn't understand this Kim's move, but Kim says to him that, "Mr. Park Jeonwung, let the association know of this situation and request reinforcements. As for me, I'm gonna catch the ones behind this." The dagger that Kim uses, it's named Talisman. Its rank is rare, and Jijinwi. The Player Association's chairman gave Kim Tae-yun this dagger for passing the tryouts at top place. Then we see the remaining security guards that standing in front of terrorist. The security guard in the front says to terrorist that, "These are the articles that have been bid on already, and not to terrorists like you." The terrorist with purple hair orders his crow to slaughter them. The terrorists attack with axe, sword, and dagger to security guards, and they kill all of them. All of the security guard are dead, and their body are lifeless lying on the ground. The terrorists pass over the security guards, and they reach the box and chests they were protecting. The guy with purple hair and skeleton mask opens one of them and brings out some kind of artifact that has Phoenix head on top of it. He finally reached it. That artifact was Phoenix Potion. It is rare and unique item to get, and it can permanently increases stamina and mana by 20 points each when consumed. The terrorist thinks with himself that, "Now I understand why Mr. Narendra Nehru told us to get it, even if that meant putting our lives at stake. I can sense tremendous energy from it just by looking at it. If I drink this..." The moment that terrorist wanted to drink it, an explosion happens. He sees that one of his crow was defeated, and they were on the ground. He didn't know what is happening and who defeated them. One of his remaining man calls him and says, "There is an enemy, but they can't see where the enemy is." Out of nowhere, this enemy attacks one of the terrorists again. With that, two of remaining terrorists got scared, and in moments, two of them were defeated. The guy with purple hair noticed that the enemy was using a stealth skill, But it was late because the enemy reached him, attacked him, and tore his mask and cuts his face and eye. He screamed and called the enemy a rat. He wasted no time and activated his skill. His chain skill was activated, and his chains find the enemy. They tied him and lifted him up. He called enemy a fool and said to him, "How dare you act up with nothing but stealth under your belt?" He grabbed his bleeding eye and continued, "You're dead now." Then we see the enemy was Kim himself. Kim says to him that, wow, a skill that can locate even an opponent using stealth. Kim, while activating his skill, continues, "You'd be a decent substitute for predation." Kim activates his predation and gets ready to break the chains. Then we see that security guards of Auction House were defeated and they were unconscious, and the people who were in auction are tied with a rope. Then we see room full of monsters. They were all over the lace, and all of them were watching the hostages. They gathered all of the hostages in Warp Gate control room. Old man Nehru was happy because of how this matter was simple and said, "With this, all of you shall fear him, our God, even more." Now all that's left is Phoenix Potion. One of the terrorists with fear in his body brings a wireless radio to Nehru and says, "We got a message from Dyke's group, who went to acquire the Phoenix Potion." But the problem is, by hearing this, Nehru wonders, what does he mean by a problem? Then he hears that the wireless radio starts to click. Someone wants to talk from other side. The guy from other side says, "Are you Naranada Nehru?" Nehru gets angry and says to him, "Who are you?" Then we see the guy from other side. It is Kim himself, and says to Nehru, "Me? I'm the one who has what you want." Kim managed to defeat the purple hair guy and gets his hand on Phoenix Potion. Kim says to Nehru that if you want it back, then get here over right now, you a useless terrorist. By hearing that, Nehru filled with rage and angered. We see that the security guards and terrorist bodies are lying on the ground. Then we see Kim. He is drinking Phoenix Potion, with Kim drinking it. Immediately his stats went up, and his stamina, magical power were boosted. Kim, by drinking this unique rank potion, realized that it was in a different league and said that, "After all that roaming around in the dungeons, my stats didn't increase at all. But with this, all at once. Now I don't have to worry about the Phoenix Potion getting into the hands of those terrorists." Then Kim notices footstep sounds that are coming towards him, and Kim looks at the footsteps direction and sees Isaki Ryohei with his men are coming towards Kim. Kim uses his stealth skill and makes himself invisible. Isaki and his man sees that the security guards that are guarding the chests are defeated and terrorists are lifeless lying on the ground. One of Isaki's men, while looking at bodies, says that there's no one here. Other one with a worried face says, "But the message definitely came from here. Do you think they ran away?" Isaki laughs and says to his man that, "What the hell are you on about?" His man gets confused. With that, Isaki says to them, "He's right there in front of us!" Isaki shouts at Kim's direction and says, "Stop hiding and come on out! Kim Tae-hyun!" Kim disables his stealth skill and makes himself visible and says, "How odd, I'm pretty sure my skills is perfect." Kim now is in the tunnel and he is in front of Isaki's team. Isaki says to Kim, "What is someone of your caliber as an S-ranked player doing here?" Kim replies to Isaki that, "Well, aren't you the head of security here? I'm pretty sure you should be running around trying to clean up after the terror attack." Isaki laughs and says, "You see, there's something I'm looking for." Kim knows that even Isaki himself wanted that potion. While Kim gets closer, he reaches into his pocket to take out what Isaki wants and says, "No wonder I felt something was off. As if it wasn't enough that you couldn't find all those bombs despite having all these players as bodyguards. When I saw terrorists storming in through East Point, where you can't enter without permission, I figured they had someone on the inside. But who would have thought that the head of security would have been their spy?" With hearing Kim's words, Isaki laughs, and while activating his skill says to Kim that, "Even after I was kind enough to warn you to stay in your lane." In second, Lasaki vanishes from his stands, with seeing that Kim pulls out his dagger to defend himself. Suddenly, out of nowhere, Kim notices Isaki's attack and defends himself from Isaki's sword by his dagger. Isaki, with serious and angry face, says to Kim, "Hand it over." Kim smiles to Isaki and says, "Just try taking it like a villain should." Both of them releases their power, and by that tunnel is shaking, and wave of their power releases reaches Isaki's man. In second, Kim and Isaki with maximum speed vanish from their spot and start fighting in tunnel, and their speed is so high that they only leave red light. And with their battle, they destroy the structure of the tunnel and cut the boxes into pieces. Isaki's man were scared of Kim, and Isaki's fight, one of them said, "That's a battle between S-rankers. Don't even think of going over there." Not to mention Mr. Ryohei is called the Devil. No doubt we'll end up getting chopped into pieces if we carelessly interfere. We see that Kim is fighting, but Isaki's skill is so powerful that Kim is in defense position and cannot see Isaki's moves. Kim just fighting with red lights. Kim knows that Isaki is powerful, and he cannot fight lightly, and he must fight with all your might, says with himself that, unlike me, who only predicts the direction of attack through the killing aura and sound, this guy can actually see me. We see that Isaki is right above Kim's head and raised his sword, and he aimed to strike Kim's head. Isaki swings his sword. Kim, with worried face in the last moment, notices, but he couldn't do anything, and Isaki hits Kim into his chest and makes his stone skin skill to break, and blood comes from it. Kim and stealth skill gets disappearing. Kim knows that even though they're both using stealth skill, yet there's such a huge gap in their proficiency. Kim takes a step back from Isaki to rest. Kim goes near of Isaki's man on roof and activates his Death Knight Roar skill because Kim knows that Isaki is not worth to Kim uses his predation. Kim, with move of his hand, lifts Isaki's man up to air and with another move smashes them on the ground and defeats them in second, and Isaki's man goes unconscious. After defeating them, Kim asks with himself that where's Isaki Ryohei? Suddenly Kim notices something. Kim hears Isaki's laughter. Isaki says to Kim that was some awesome judgment. After all, stealth is weak against wide-range skills. But if you were looking for me, then you should have used it over your head as well. Isaki activates his skill and releases it to its maximum. He attacks Kim with his sword by seeing that Kim goes to a defense position and wants to defend himself against Isaki's sword. In the next scene, we see that the terrorist guarding the top floor tunnel, but in moment of silence, the floor under their feet gets destroyed and both Kim and Isaki's while fighting comes from it. With Isaki's massive power realist, the battle between them destroys 5 floor. Then we see that Kim is defeated by Isaki Kim. Isaki is standing with his sword on top of Kim, and he is ready to plunge his sword into his chest. But in moment, Isaki gets surprised. He doesn't understand what is happening, because Kim, by using his chain skill, chains up Isaki's sword, and Isaki cannot move his sword right now. Kim laughs at Isaki and calls him a fool, and Isaki notices that he was fallen into Kim's trap. He leaves his sword and tries to run away from Kim's chain. Isaki says to himself, that skill from earlier, it wasn't used to find me, but so that he could stop me running out of this skill's target range. Kim, with laughter, follows Isaki, and Kim prepares his fist and fuses it with his chain skill to attack Isaki, and says to Isaki that, where are you running off to? Isaki gets scared, but now he cannot run away from Kim's chains. Kim's chains reaches Isaki, and with he grabs Isaki. He curses Kim, but that cannot do any good for Isaki, because Kim with his fist attacks Isaki and makes him to bring blood from his mouth. Thank you for watching this video until the end. Stay tuned for the next chapters.